Everybody ready then? Okay, we got Todd List, our faithful president. His speech title is, Will You Be My Tweetheart? It's speech number 9, Persuade with Power. Todd's been a Toastmaster for 3+ years. His occupation is Value Enhancement Expert. He recently started dabbling in the world of social media. He is caving into multiple requests to answer the question, what is Twitter? Welcome to Todd. For speech, will you be my tweetheart? It's 5 to 7.
Mr. Toastmaster, friends and guests, that little sound is something that an application called TweetDeck makes on my computer every few minutes. TweetDeck is an application that allows me to interact with a new service, relatively new, called Twitter. Twitter is one of these so-called social media tools that you may have heard about. Is anyone here, are you using Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn? Anybody? Okay, a lot of people are. What are you using, Chris?
Facebook.
Facebook? All right. Who else? Anybody on LinkedIn? A couple people? Okay. Has anybody played with Twitter yet? All right, we've got a couple who have. Social media tools are a new class of things that are essentially ways to help people communicate and connect with one another. I got involved with Twitter about the middle of February. A friend of mine suggested that it would be some benefit to me because of some projects that I was undertaking. He said, you need to be on Twitter. Okay. So I took a class. There were some friends at a place in Brighton called Insights Group that had a basic introduction to Twitter. And I sat down and I learned a little bit about it. And then I became really dangerous. Let me explain a little bit about the different types of social media. And this term is hotly debated by a lot of people in the field, but let's start with Facebook. They say that it connects you back to your past. A lot of people use Facebook to connect to other friends from college or high school. They may use it for connecting with buddies at work or different things. But do you know what the largest demographic is on Facebook right now? Women over the age of 50. Can you believe that? Grandkids. They get to see pictures of grandkids. That's cool. So the women over 50 may actually make up the largest population on the Facebook media. And it has something like 200 million people using it on the planet now. The next one is LinkedIn, and they say that connects you to your present. It's more thought of a networking tool for professionals, for people who are doing business with other people. It's a way to say, oh, I want to get into working with somebody at Xerox. And you can go into LinkedIn and check to see what's at LinkedIn. Is there anybody in my network who worked at Xerox? Or maybe I can put in a company name and it'll search, and somebody I know knows somebody who does or did work at Xerox. It can be a wonderful tool for making introductions. I'm learning more about that. Twitter connects you to your future. How does it do that? Well, let's start with what Twitter is. Are you familiar with blogs? Does anyone read a blog? Okay. Anybody written a blog? All right, we've got a little bit. A blog is just, it's a short for weblog. It's basically a diary or a series of thoughts that are posted on a web page. People can go on the internet and they can look at it, read it, comment. Sometimes they're updated frequently. Others are updated sporadically. Some go for a brief spurt of activity and then they just kind of die out. Twitter is sometimes called a microblogging tool. What it does is it takes little thoughts that answer the question, initially, what are you doing? What are you doing? Somebody could sit there with their cell phone or wireless device and say, I'm sitting in a Bloomfield Toastmasters meeting listening to this joker talk about Twitter. Well, so what? Who cares? Twitter will post that 140 character max, 140 letters, numbers, and spaces to a website or a web service. Then anybody who's following you or essentially subscribed to your miniature blog gets a notification that you have just updated and said, I'm sitting here in Bloomfield Toastmasters listening to this joker ramble on about Twitter. Well, again, who cares, right? I showed a friend of mine this the other day after I'd started to become enamored with it. She said, I can see why it takes up all of this time. Because you got all these people right here. It's a way to connect with people. Now, who can follow you? Anybody. Anybody with a Twitter account. If you want to follow me, I'm @TJList. Click the follow button. I update several times a day. And what happens is somebody will post something. I'm going to lunch at a certain bar, or maybe I'm going to go have a cup of coffee. Oh, I'll meet you there. It's a way for people to broadcast what's going on in their lives. I've made friends in different parts of the country, throughout the metro area, and I'm starting to get to know people around the world. What benefit can this have? Here's why. You need to get involved with Twitter or other social media. I've found some benefits in my personal and professional life. First of all, I've made friends. I spent much of the day co-working, hanging out at the coffee shop with 3 people that 6 weeks ago I did not know. I may have an opportunity to partner with one of them in business. It's a really cool thing. A few weeks ago, I was preparing for a speech. I had some concerns about certain things that I might have trouble with. Through Twitter, randomly following updates from other people, I found somebody who had a really good blog about certain speaking skills and activities. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I contacted this woman and said, I like what you've written. Would you be willing to speak with me? So we got on Skype, which is another tool. It's basically a telephone connection from computer to computer, and interacted with this lady in New Zealand for about 20 minutes. I was sitting in a coffee shop. She was sitting in her office in New Zealand. We spoke for about 20 minutes, and I got some fantastic information. She, in turn, got more material to write about on her blog. It was a mutually beneficial relationship. I put that information to use the next week. Twitter has a lot of potential for connecting people together. Last night, I went to an event. We had a thing that they called Eat Up. And we got a bunch of people together. We all met at a restaurant in Ferndale. We talked, we laughed, we shared jokes and stories, connected, made relationships. What is Twitter allowing us to do? Make friends. One of my friends blogged about an opportunity for Twitter, among other tools, to provide a digital handshake. When you meet somebody, Dr. Joe, it's a pleasure to meet you. I really enjoyed talking with you today. You shake hands. You've established a relationship. You can use Twitter to do the same thing. You do it by simply being a human being. Respond to what other people say. There's a lot of terminology, and there's a lot of stuff going on with different symbols and @ signs and hashtags. And for the neophyte, all of that stuff seems pretty nebulous. But come and see me, talk to somebody who's on it, we can explain it to you, get you hooked up with the different tools. Twitter has an opportunity, along with other social media, to become a new form of democracy. because it allows people to network and band together and do things as a group more readily than they could before. I've made some good friends already in the short couple of months that I've been on Twitter. I look forward to meeting new people all the time. And maybe, just maybe, I might find somebody to be my tweetheart.
Thanks, Todd.